So in this video, you're going to become even more familiar with the unit circle. You're used to us talking about, the angles that fit around this unit circle at 45 and 60 and 90 and so on. And so what we're also going to talk about is if we're at one of those points. So if I'm at this spot right here, what is that point on the XY axis? Or if I'm at this spot right here, what is that point on the XY axis? What's the X value it matches up with? What's the Y value it matches up with? We're going to use that quite extensively to find sine, cosine, and tangent and stuff like that. So you need to become very familiar with what are the X and Y coordinates of that point. And so that's the purpose of this video, is to help you figure out what those coordinates are. So in order to do that, first off, we call it the unit circle because the idea of this circle is that it has a radius of 1. So no matter where you are on the circle, if I'm right here, the distance from this point to the center is going to be 1. So this distance is going to be 1. No matter where I am, the distance is going to be 1. So in order to do that, in order to figure out what these points are, then this point right here, the X value of that point and the Y value of that point, we're going to have to analyze a little bit more about the 30, 60, 90 triangle and the 45, 45, 90 triangle. So here's what we're going to do. Let's first look at the axes. So you already know, if we're right here, it's going to be on the x-axis. The point is going to be the x value first, which, since it has a radius of 1, the x value is going to be 1, and then the y value is automatically going to be 0 since we're on the x-axis. If we go across from that and go over to the negative side of that, the x value is going to be 1 away from the center, but since we're in the negative direction, it will be 0. If we look at the very top, here the x value is going to be 0, and the y value is going to be a positive 1, because remember, we're still 1 away. And at the bottom, the x value is going to be 0, and the y value is going to be negative 1. Now we have more points to figure out. We have the 45s we'll figure out. So all of these we're going to figure out. Now in order to do that, let me just fill them in here. And in order to do that, let's remember that special triangle that we've talked about, the 45, 45, 90 triangle. Now with that triangle, hold on, with that triangle, they got 45 here and 45 here, we're used to seeing 1, 1, and the square root of 2. That's what we're used to seeing. But we are going to place that triangle on the unit circle at 45 degrees. So I'm saying from the center to that point right there, this is 45 degrees. And so if I drag that point straight down, I've got another 45 here. And so what's happening is I need the hypotenuse to be 1. That's what I need it to be. The hypotenuse of this needs to be 1. But if you remember, we know this triangle as being 1, 1, and the square root of 2. So what I have to do is I have to do some math so that that square root of 2 is no longer that, it's a 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide everything by the square root of 2. Which means now my hypotenuse is going to be 1. And then each of my sides, I need to rationalize that, right? Square root of 2, square root of 2. So each of my sides is going to be root 2 over 2. Alright, so let's erase what I can. Oh man, please don't tell me that. Let's try it this way. Awesome. Okay, so if I erase, I'm going to put that triangle back in there. Remember what just happened. I have my triangle. Now this side is root 2 over 2, and this side is root 2 over 2, and this side is 1, which is what I needed, because remember it's a unit circle, so I need this to be a 1. So as I'm trying to figure out the point, remember that this x value is going to be how far over this goes on the x-axis, and according to my diagram here, it goes over root 2 over 2. So the x value is going to be root 2 over 2, and then the y value is going to be how far up it goes, and it goes up, according to the diagram, root 2 over 2. So on this one, the point there is going to be root 2 over 2, comma root 2 over 2. So let me erase that. because now I need to look at all the other 45s that I have here. Because if you look here, I have another 45 over here. Again, it's still going to be a 1 here. It's going to be root 2 over 2, and it's going to be root 2 over 2. So this time my x value is going to be still root 2 over 2, but I'm in the negative direction, so it's negative root 2 over 2. And my y value is going to be a positive root 2 over 2. So that'll be that point. And we're going to keep on placing this triangle all the way around. Now we'll go to the third quadrant. And I'll go straight up. Remember, it's 1. This side's root 2 over 2, and this side's root 2 over 2. So then that means my x value is a negative root 2 over 2. And my y value is going to be root 2 over 2, but it'll also be negative because I'm in the negative quadrant for y. And I have one last one for this one. And let's see here, I'm going to put that triangle in there. It'll be again root 2 over 2 there, root 2 over 2 there, and then 1 here. So my x value now, it's a positive, it's going in the positive side, so root 2 over 2 there. And my y value is a negative, root 2 over 2. Oops, let me make that look better there. Negative root 2 over 2. Alright, so that's all my 45s. So any 45 point, the x value is going to be root 2 over 2, the y's value is going to be root 2 over 2. The thing you're going to have to pay attention to, though, is whether it's going to be positive or negative. But anytime you have a 45, your x and y values are root 2 over 2. Alright, we're almost done. Notice what we're missing are the 30s and 60s, which are tied together. If you remember, on that 30, 60, 90 triangle, let's change our color. We've got 30 degrees here, we've got 60 degrees here, and we're used to this being 1. Well, let's see if I can remember this now. Oofda. Nope. Let's see here. Okay, I'm silly. Sorry. Alright, so this is 1, 2, and the square root of 3. So that's what it typically is. But if we think about where this triangle is going to go, I am looking at my 30 degree and my 60 degree angles. So I'm going to be filling in all of these here. So 30 degrees and 60 degrees, 60 degrees and 30 degrees. So I'm going to be filling all of these in here, and I'm going to be putting the triangle, I'm going to be taking, sorry, I'm confused, I'm going to be taking this triangle right here and placing it on the circle. So let's work it with it as a 60, or as a 30, sorry. So I'll be putting the 30 on there, wrong color. I'll be putting the 30 on there, so it's 30 here and 60 here. And then that means that's 1, 2, and the square root of 3. But again, remember, this is the unit circle, and so that 2 is in the wrong spot. I need that 2 to be a 1. So to make it a 1, I have to divide everything by 2. So then what happens is, I'm back to a 1 here, but then I have 1/2 on the vertical and root 3 over 2 on the horizontal. So if I'm looking for an xy value, I've got an x value of root 3 over 2 and a y value of 1/2. So that's going to be, that angle 30 is going to have that point out there where it intersects with the unit circle. So now let's place another 30 on here. So I'm going to go over to the second quadrant and put that 30 on there because technically this is 30 degrees right there, even though my actual angle itself is 150 degrees. Okay, but the triangle that's made by taking that straight down, the triangle that's made is a 30 to 60, 90 triangle. And again, I want that to be a 1, so this would have to be root 3 over 2, and this would have to be 1/2, which means my angle is going to intersect with the unit circle, and the x value is going to be root 3 over 2, only it's a negative direction. And the y value is going to be at 1/2, positive. And so that point is going to be negative root 3 over 2 and 1/2. Let's place it now in the third quadrant. Remember, this is a 30, so this is going to be root 3 over 2. This is going to be 1/2, and this will be 1. So my x value is negative root 3 over 2, and my y value is negative 1/2. And then, if I go over to the last one, to the fourth quadrant, I've got 30 degrees here, so this is root 3 over 2, and this is 1/2. This will be a 1. My x value is now a positive root 3 over 2, and my y value is a negative 1/2. Alright, a little bit left. I need to now do my 60s. Now, if you look at the picture, I'm now focusing on the 60. So I'm now focusing on the 60 with a 1 next to it and a root 3 on the side and a 2 on the hypotenuse. But remember, as I place it, I want my hypotenuse to be 1 instead. So as I place my 60-degree angle, this is 60. So if you remember, it was 1, 2, and the square root of 3. But now I need that 2 to be a 1, so I divide everything by 2. So you'll notice I'm still working with the same sides as I was with the 30, except now they're flipped. And so now I'll have a 1 there, and so my x value is going to be a positive 1/2, because that's my horizontal. It matches up right here. It's a length of 1/2. And my y value is going to be a positive root 3 over 2. So that's going to be my x and y value for my 60. I hope you notice that if you look at the x and y value of the 60 and the x and the y value of the 30, they actually match up. I have 1/2 for my x value, but for the 30 I have 1/2 for my y value. And then if I have root 3 over 2 for my y value, I have root 3 over 2 for my x value there. So that, of course, they're going to share the same sides. They're from the same triangle, so they'll have the same sides. All right, then we go over to our second quadrant. It's 60 degrees here, so this will be a 1, this will be a 1/2, and this will be a root 3 over 2. So the x value is negative 1/2 because I'm in the negative direction, and my y value is root 3 over 2 still. Hopefully this is becoming redundant and that you kind of know what's going on and you can fill in the rest yourself. So then if I go down to the 60 degree here, so this would be 60 degrees here, I have an x value of, well, let's see here, this is 1/2, this is root 3 over 2, and this is 1. So I have an x value of 1/2 and a y value of negative root 3 over 2. Whoops, I made a mistake, didn't I? It's a negative 1/2 because it's in the third quadrant. Notice that all of them in the third quadrant have all negatives there. And then if I place the triangle in the fourth quadrant, I've got 60 here. This will be 1/2, root 3 over 2, and 1. My x value is a positive 1/2. My y value is negative root 3 over 2. So this is what we call the unit circle. Now, we're going to talk about why do you have x and y values tomorrow during class. Why do we care about this? But this is something that you need to work on and be comfortable with. You need to be able to fill in the unit circle yourself. I'm not going to time you on it, but I want you to be able to do this and fill this in. Okay, I'm going to give you a sheet actually tomorrow that'll allow you to fill it in again, but you maybe want to actually practice and just work with the circle yourself. Draw a circle, put in the angles there, and see if you can fill in the x and y values. Now notice there's a couple cool things that happen here. There are really only a couple numbers we're working with here, which it looks full, but there's only a couple numbers. We have 1s and 0s on the axes, including negatives. But when we look at these here, there's only 3 numbers we're looking at. We have root 2 over 2 for the 45s, and then for the 30s we have 1/2 and root 3 over 2. So really there's only 1, 2, 3 numbers that we're working with. They're just all over the place and we have to figure out where do they go. And so tomorrow we'll talk more about how can you remember that this goes in the x and this goes in the y for the 30, but for the 60 it's the other way around. So we'll look at that more. First I want you to just kind of get comfortable with filling in the unit circle.